Let me start with a moment that's probably going to feel uncomfortably familiar. It's a normal weekday evening. Nothing dramatic is happening. You're not shopping. You're not splurging. You're not even stressed about anything specific. You open your banking app just to check. Two paychecks came in this month, solid ones. Grown-up money, the kind of income your parents would have looked at and said, "You're set." And instead of relief, you feel this tightness in your chest. Not panic, not crisis, just this low-grade financial tension that never really leaves. You're not broke, but you're not relaxed either. That you catch yourself hoping nothing goes wrong this month. No car noise, no weird medical bill, no email from HR that starts with, "We regret to inform you." And immediately your brain goes into contingency mode. Which card could absorb it? Which bill could slide to next month? How long could you float things if you absolutely had to? At some point, maybe quietly, maybe out loud, you've thought this exact sentence: "We make too much money to feel this stressed." If that sentence has ever crossed your mind, this video is for you, because what you're experiencing isn't a budgeting failure. It's not because you're irresponsible, and it's not because you don't earn enough. It's because you're stuck in a financial setup that looks safe from the outside and is quietly engineered to remove margin. Let me describe a couple to you, and I want you to be brutally honest about how much of this sounds like your life. They're both professionals. No chaos, no gambling, no wild career pivots. She works in marketing, earning about $63,000 a year. He's in IT, pulling in roughly $72,000. Combined household income, around $135,000. That puts them comfortably above the median U.S. household income. Statistically, they're in the top quarter of American households. They should be doing great. They should be stacking savings, investing aggressively, feeling secure. Instead, they're exhausted, and they both work full-time. Sometimes more, their days are packed with meetings, deadlines, commutes, and emails that never stop. They see each other for a couple of tired hours at night. Weekends disappear into errands, chores, and trying to recover just enough to do it all again Monday. They have savings, technically maybe 2 months of expenses if they're being generous. When the car needed a repair last year, it went straight on a credit card, not because they're irresponsible, but because that's what happens when cash flow is tight and life doesn't wait. And here's the part that really messes with people. They didn't mess up. They followed the rules. They got degrees. They built careers, and they got married. They combined finances. They bought a house in a good area. They did exactly what American society told them would lead to stability. So why does it still feel like they're treading water? Here's the thing most people miss. This isn't a budgeting problem. It's not a discipline issue. And it's not because you don't earn enough. It's because we've been sold a story about money that sounds logical and quietly destroys flexibility. We're told that 2 incomes are automatically safer than 1, that it's basic math. More money equals more security. And on paper, that makes sense. If one person earning $60,000 can support a household, then 2 people earning $60,000 should be thriving, extra savings, faster wealth building, less stress. Except that's not what happened. What actually happened was one of the biggest financial bait and switches in modern American history. This is where it gets interesting. Before she ever entered politics, Elizabeth Warren was a Harvard bankruptcy law professor. Along with her daughter, Amelia Warren Teague, she studied thousands of middle-class families who filed for bankruptcy. These weren't reckless spenders. These weren't people living flashy lives. They were teachers, engineers, nurses, office workers, normal American families who, on paper, looked stable. And what they found shocked a lot of people. 2-income households weren't safer. They were more likely to go bankrupt than single-income households. Let that sink in. 2 adults working, 2 paychecks coming in, and somehow more financial risk, not less. That's not because people suddenly forgot how to budget. That's because the system changed around them. To understand how we ended up here, you have to zoom out. In the 1970s and early 1980s, the typical middle-class American household looked very different. Workforce participation among women was lower, yes, but more importantly, the economy was structured around the idea that 1 income could cover the basics. Housing consumed a much smaller share of income. Public schools were more evenly funded. Healthcare costs were lower. Childcare wasn't a major expense because someone was usually home. And here's the key detail most people miss. That second potential income didn't disappear. It was on standby. If the primary earner lost a job, got sick, or hit a rough patch, the other partner could enter the workforce. That second income was an emergency lever, a form of insurance. That margin mattered. Now, fast forward to today. Dual income households aren't a lifestyle choice for most families, they're a requirement. In middle class America, two full-time incomes are often the minimum just to stay afloat. But we didn't just add a second paycheck, we spent it every dollar. Housing absorbed it, healthcare absorbed it, childcare absorbed it, education absorbed it. According to Census and Bureau of Labor Statistics data, household incomes have risen over time, but median home prices have risen far faster than wages. Healthcare spending per person has exploded. Childcare now averages roughly $14,000 to $16,000 per year per child nationally, and much more in major metro areas. College tuition has increased multiple times faster than inflation. So where did the extra money go? It didn't become savings, it became fixed costs. The second income didn't create comfort, it became the price of admission to the middle class. Now you might be thinking, okay, but that doesn't apply to us, we're careful with money. Fair. Let's walk through the math anyway. Say one partner earns $75,000 a year, the other earns $55,000, combined household income $130,000, and that feels solid. Now isolate the second income. That $55,000 doesn't exist in a vacuum. Because of how marginal tax brackets work, it gets taxed at a higher effective rate than the first income. Federal income tax, state income tax, payroll taxes. It's common for around 30% of that second income to disappear immediately. So $55,000 becomes roughly $38,000 take home. Now add childcare. One child, national averages put you around $15,000 per year. Two kids, you're pushing $30,000. Let's assume one child to be generous. Now you're down to $23,000. Next, commuting. Two working adults usually means two commutes, gas, maintenance, depreciation, insurance, parking. Conservative estimate, $6,000 to $8,000 per year for the second worker. Call it $7,000. Now you're at $16,000. Now comes the invisible expense nobody budgets for, exhaustion. When both adults work full-time, time disappears. Cooking, cleaning, errands, home maintenance, all the unpaid labor that used to absorb hours now gets outsourced or simplified. More takeout, more delivery, more convenience spending. Research consistently shows dual income households spend thousands more annually simply because they're tired. Let's say $6,000 a year. Now that $55,000 second income is down to $10,000, and that's a good scenario. Add a second child, add higher housing costs, add healthcare expenses. That number shrinks fast, sometimes to zero, sometimes negative. Someone is working 40 or 50 hours a week, missing family time, absorbing stress, and the household nets the equivalent of a few dollars an hour. Now here's the psychological trap that makes this worse. You don't feel broke because the gross number looks big. You see $130,000 on paper and assume you're safe. So you make decisions based on that number. You buy a house sized for two incomes, you take on car payments sized for two incomes, you lock yourself into fixed costs that only work if both paychecks keep flowing forever. This is where the trap snaps shut. Because unlike households decades ago, you no longer have a backup plan. Both incomes are already spoken for. If one person gets laid off, burns out, gets sick, or needs to step back, the entire structure shakes. Let me give you a second scenario, because this is where it stops being abstract. Another couple, similar income, similar setup, two solid careers, mortgage-sized for both paychecks, health insurance through one employer because that plan was better. Then a layoff happens, not because of performance, just restructuring. Suddenly, it's not just one paycheck gone, it's health insurance, it's prescription coverage, it's the psychological shock of realizing how much of your life was tied to one employer continuing to say yes. Cobra kicks in and the monthly premium is higher than you expected, way higher. The emergency fund starts draining fast. Job interviews take longer than planned. Stress creeps into everything. This is the part older generations don't fully understand. In America, your job isn't just income. It's healthcare, it's stability, it's psychological safety. When both incomes are required, both jobs become critical infrastructure. That's why Federal Reserve surveys consistently show that roughly 40% of Americans can't handle a modest emergency without borrowing, including many households earning well above the median. This isn't about being bad with money. It's about fragility. It's like running an engine at redline constantly. Everything works until it doesn't. And when it fails all at once. And housing makes this crystal clear. Once dual incomes became the norm, families could bid more for the same houses. Prices adjusted upward. Two incomes didn't buy more space, they became the baseline requirement. The same thing happened with school districts. Good public schools became tied to expensive zip codes. You're not paying tuition, you're paying through your mortgage. Once you buy in, you're locked into needing both incomes indefinitely. Now you might be thinking, okay, Vit, but what choice do we actually have? We can't just opt out. You're right, and this is where the shift happens. The solution isn't quitting a job tomorrow. The solution is changing what your life depends on. You stop treating both incomes as permanent, even if they are. You build your fixed life on one income. Housing, cars, core bills, all sized so that if one paycheck disappeared, life would be uncomfortable, but not catastrophic. The second income becomes optional, not for lifestyle inflation, for margin, for freedom. Emergency fund first, then retirement, then investments. Every dollar saved buys you future leverage. Yes, it means driving past houses you technically qualify for. Yes, it means explaining to friends why you're not upgrading. But within 5 to 10 years, something powerful happens. Your money starts buying you options. Compounding replaces anxiety, and suddenly you actually get what two incomes were supposed to give you in the first place. Not appearances, not vibes, options. The families who win financially in America today aren't the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who preserved flexibility. They refuse to spend their backup plan just to keep up. Two incomes aren't bad, but two incomes that are fully spent before they arrive, that's not wealth. That's a trap. And now that you see it, the only question left is what you're going to do differently.